Dominions are organizations composed of free citizens united by an adherence to the right of dominion and a commitment to the principle of subsidiarity. The free market is said to be the most powerful social technology available to humankind, yet it has not solved the problem of unemployment, debt, or inflation. It still perpetuates waste. No market can be free if the people are not free. Money is considered to be one of the greatest of human innovations, yet no one knows how to issue currency in the quantity needed without creating debt and inflation. No market can be free until money can be issued without dislocating the mechanisms of the market through debt and inflation. The power of the free market is said to be its reliance on the invisible hand. This power is vested in a free people. The invisible hand of the free market is visible to financiers and the state because they control the currency, and through this, they control the people. Being able to control the market is euphemistically called making money work for you. Despite the assurances the market will sort things out on its own, it is not on its own if those who use it are in ideological chains. The market cannot fix things when property is concentrated in fewer and fewer hands and the citizen is not free of the machinations of the rich. If the invisible hand was as powerful as its supporters say, why has it not achieved autonomy from the state and the money managers of the economy? Obviously, the invisible hand has been purchased and enslaved along with the citizenry. If the most efficient business is the one without government regulations, why have not governments been made redundant by the operation of efficient private enterprise businesses operating in a free market? Regardless of the theoretical claims made, it is difficult to imagine capitalism existing without the state. Government is needed, not so much to regulate business operations, but to restrain those who would tar and feather capitalists and run them out of town on a rail, if permitted. Unions were not developed as a way to protect the sanctity of free enterprise. It is difficult to imagine 5,000 sturdy workmen taking abuse from a portly entrepreneur, based on the assurance that an untrammeled private enterprise system produces the best possible outcome. Private enterprise exists only because the public sector protects it at the public's expense. Adam Smith noted that businessmen never come together without the conversation turning to methods of circumventing regulations and the market. Such impulses are also part of labor's makeup. We have created a system at war with itself that needs a regulatory state, despite its known drawbacks. Dominion exchanges are formed by people who come together to defend their rights of dominion, the right to what they create, and to oppose any claim to their property by the state or its allies. Dominion exchanges are composed of between 3 and 15 persons. Any product or service provided by the market or state can be provided by an exchange. Public goods such as policing, and health care and education can be provided with the same facility conventional goods and services have been by the market. An exchange can be set up and registered as a not-for-profit corporation. Registering the exchange as a not-for-profit will reduce issues that might occur with the state as we carry on increasing the degree of separation between church and state. Every member of the exchange has one voting share. Common shares allow the member to vote in elections and on policy initiatives and for the chairperson. Common shares entitle each member to a share of the assets of the organization were it ever dissolved. However, exchanges are never sold or liquidated. The assets of an exchange can be transferred to a different sector, but exchanges never become non-viable in the way private business do. The exchange issues preferred shares as a currency. Preferred shares represent the equity of the exchange and are issued based on the value created by labor. Thus, the currency is always fully backed by the equity of the exchange and never generates inflation. Nor do exchanges produce or use interest-bearing debt. Exchanges are built around the goods and services the members provide. Exchanges are set up and expand by market mechanisms. There are no administrative pathways to wealth accumulation or to the centralization of power in an exchange. Capitalist enterprises may claim to be making a profit when in fact liabilities are being externalized. Double-entry bookkeeping permits the formation and externalization of liabilities and debt. Perhaps a lawsuit has been levied against the corporation, or an employee has information that will bring the company down. No company measures the pollution they create or adds this cost to the price of their products. But these are real costs. Exchanges are created ad hoc as needed by the transfer of assets using the mechanisms of the market. Contributors allocate assets to the exchange. Payment for transfers is by preferred shares being deposited in the investor's capital account. Equity in the exchange is exchanged for assets transferred to the exchange. Equity is a financial vehicle used to express value. A piece of equipment sold to the exchange for $500 represents $500 worth of equity. Equity is represented by preferred shares. An exchange that receives an asset valued at $500 is able to issue 500 preferred shares valued at $1 each. Preferred shares can be exchanged for goods and services because they are issued in denominations the way conventional currency is. Preferred shares are a fully backed currency and used as a unit of exchange in all economic transactions. Christians are required to divest themselves of personal wealth, and yet they are required to be doers of good works. This includes caring for their families. The only way these parameters can be satisfied is by means of an exchange. Personal property required for the care of oneself and one's family is not the issue here. What is on the table is capital or commercial assets. All surplus goods and what is understood as capital is transferred to the accounts of the exchange, in exchange for equity in the exchange. The easiest and best way to divest oneself of assets not needed for personal use is by transferring ownership of these to the accounts of an exchange in return for preferred shares. There is no benefit for an exchange to create social costs. The agent creating the cost is the same agent that will ultimately pay the cost. Exchange inputs equal outputs. A market is a closed system. The focus of the exchange is always local. The integrity of the local market is paramount. It makes no sense to create a shoddy product or service when this will be used by a member of the same organization. If one department needs a piece of equipment, it makes no sense for the manufacturing arm of the parent company to produce a machine that does not work as it ought and suffers multiple breakdowns. This holds true for exchanges. Business activity is similar to in-house transfers within a conventional business. Social costs are what businesses call externalized costs. These are costs created by the production process but not contained in the price of the products or services sold, thus the uncovered cost accrues to the account of society and future generations. This only makes sense if the accounts can be kept separate. Exchanges prevent costs from being externalized onto society and future generations because no one can transfer costs onto a free citizen. God actually made things simple for us. This is not just a nod to our mortality and sin, but as proof that our love of the flesh and our indulgence in sin is not a constitutional problem but a will issue. Our corruption is intentional. We are in sin, but its impact is due to willful intent, not to inheritance. This is what Jesus modeled in the temptations. We can be and will be tempted, but we do not need to make our weakness the central feature of our lives. We are not evil because evil is too smart or strong for us, but because we love the feel of sin. We love how it makes us feel. We will not give it up for what we see as the parochial way of faith. Biblically, there is only one law, which is the right of dominion. This is the right to what we create, a right established by God Himself. There is only one evil, and that is parasitism. Parasitism is manifested as free-loading, free riding, and the externalization of costs onto society and future generations. It all comes down to the same thing: the worker is not paid the wage to which he or she is entitled, and those who did not do the work enjoy the fruits of someone else's labor, nevertheless. The truth is simple, yet everyone has turned from the simple truths of Scripture to live instead by the law that denies God, in this corrupt and crazy reality that has no purpose. If your church does not show you how to be perfected, it preaches a corrupt or misleading gospel. If we follow God, we have only one objective, and that is perfection. God is perfect and cannot be anything less than perfect. If we are guided by Him and do all He has commanded, we must be perfected in our own way, the way designed by God. The Dominion business model represents the economics of a priori and apologetic. Dominionism is the economic theory we believe is found in the Bible. If capitalism supports private ownership and communism supports public ownership, then dominionism supports and prioritizes personal ownership. Personal ownership is the ownership of what we immediately need and use. Personal ownership is not an investment, nor does it represent a common interest. Personal ownership represents our purpose. Personal ownership is what we need to follow God. Dominionists own only what they create or obtain through the mechanisms of a free market. Even our money is obtained by means of the market. As we produce value, we produce equity, and equity can be digitalized into denominations and serve as a currency. Our accounting is cash accounting, as per the free market. We will discuss the specifics in various application models in Part 2.